morning. I'm hoping that this is recording correctly. I'm going to hold this up here while I do this for a minute, and then I'm going to try to clean up this plant. This is a nasturtium plant. This is Dame from Dame's Place. And this is a nasturtium plant. I'm going to just try to clean it up. I'm going to show you how these are the little seeds, and they just fall off. I'm going to grab a bunch of these. This is just my old, I got to clean this table out. These are the seeds. And if I could, it's hard to show you right here, but this thing, these were beautiful. See how pretty these are? These are edible. Nasturtium. This is a really nice one right here. See? Okay. Pretty, pretty. She's a nasturtium. And then there's one over here as well. There's two of them right here. This is like a orangey one, and this one's so pretty. She's smaller. She's like a red. She's doing better. But see these, like all these underneath got really hot, and I had to clean them up, but I'm going to put this down and just talk in an easier pace. Okay, so I'm just going to work on this and tell you a little bit about when I moved to Kansas City. So I'm a Gen Xer, and I moved out of my house when I was young. I lived in Florida with my grandmother. I lived in Florida and in New York. So if you listen to one yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple days ago. So I worked at a place that was pretty kind of like connected up. Let's just say that. And I had a dream today. I woke up today and said, "Oh my God, I had a dream about the mob," to my husband. And he's like, "Oh." He probably gets real tired of hearing about it, but I don't look at things like, oh, the mob. I didn't have problems like that. Nothing that I knew of anyway at the time. There was this big city deal with my family that perhaps that could have had something to do with things, but I don't know it like that. I worked for a guy named Trigger, and he was good to me. And now see, I did this one poorly. See, it looked really dead, but the thing with nasturtium is that they look dead, but then you got these live leaves at the bottom. So I could really leave a lot hanging, but I'm not sure what the deal is with these. If this little white moth got into it, hard to see. See, she's kind of I don't know if you can see this. She's like tied up with these. She went up there, and there's sweet peas in here too. This is sweet. This is the nasturtium, and this is sweet peas, but she just kind of got, I don't know, she's not really, see all these things hanging, they got mixed in together. But I'm just going to try to get some seeds out of here and clean this up just a little bit while we sit here. So, let me get back to the story. Okay, so I graduate from high school. I went to a couple different high schools. I went to the high school I graduated from up north in New York, and then I went to school for a year in Florida and lived with my grandma in her over 55 park, which I wasn't really allowed to live in. So I had to just sort of act like I wasn't there all the time, but my mom had died when I was young, so a lot of the people there were pretty nice to my grandma and didn't say, "Oh, you're going to be kicked out if your granddaughter's living with you," because they kind of knew, a lot of the board knew that. And I moved back down there after when I got out of high school. I went to college for a little while, about a semester, right till the January or something. And then by March, I decided to go. My uncle said, "Come live in Kansas City with me." He ran car dealerships, and you can have a job. I didn't learn warranty work yet. I worked in a car dealership. That was my first job. I had it for quite a few years, maybe 4, 5 years, something like that. Quite a long time. Right until I went to, let's say it wasn't that long. I started when I was 16, and I moved out of New York when I was 18. So 3 years, I guess. Oh, look who came. It's Kitty. So, that's a seed. She's like, "That's not what I want." I'll get her some catnip. Okay. I go I graduate from high school and I go to college for criminal justice and psychology because I wanted to be like, I wasn't really sure, but at that point, now see, I had this dream. I had been jumped by a gang of people in that little town that I lived in. And I don't know if I moved out after. No, I came back home. I came back home because I never left Sonny's once I started there. Until I left. I didn't like quit and go back. Like there was none of that with my boss, Trigger. He was like that other boss I had at the pizza shop. Oh my God, he'd fire you on a Friday at 7 and be back to pick you up at 10 for the Grams order. You know, it was just like kids world over there. But so I go to Kansas City, and when I'm going, all right, that's a good story. Let me start at here. Let me tell you a little bit about that, going there for that trip. So I'm going to have to put this down because I talk better and not try to do an activity. Put these seeds down. So I'm a kid, I'm 18, and my uncle says, come on out here. Now I was going to learn warranty work when I worked at the car dealership in Batavia. I was a hostess and the operator, and I just didn't want to learn like warranty work for some reason. I don't know, because I think I was, my husband says all the time, yeah, you would have really been set then because that's such a good thing to learn, finance. And it wasn't really finance, but warranty work falls in under that category, and you would have gone, I would have gone probably far with that, but I just didn't feel like a car dealership type of person. It felt rough for me. Like, I don't know, people were like, I mean, it got so much rougher, but anyway, so I'm 18 and I'm about to go, and I had a friend that worked at the dealership, and I'm not going to say the name of the person, a chick, but I paid her. I'm not going to say any of that. She got me a lot of nice suits to wear to my new job for my uncle. He's like, you have to have suits and like look good. I want you looking like New York here. I don't want like Laura Ashley dresses in Kansas City. This is top of the line. So just make sure you got suits. So I mean, I received some suits that were like, they were, well, okay, so I spent $500 on these suits, and I had them all ready to go, like, I think I had like 7 suits for that, or 5 suits, like $500, 5 suits, something like that, but I think I got like 6 or 7 or 8, because this girl was my friend that got me the suits, and she was the same size as me, so I got those in my room. I'm living at my parents' house, my father and his wife, my stepmother, and her daughter. And I'm moving out, though. In that time, I also had moved out previously. I'd moved to my grandmother's for a year, and then I lived in at a friend's house for a year. Like, I paid her mom rent. I paid her rent to give to her mother, and for about... Her mother was so sweet. It was like literally I was living there 3 months, paid her every week. I wish I could, I think it was 30 a week, because my father wanted 50 a week for rent. And he got my mother's social security number, but he charged me $30 rent from the time I was 15 a week. And then some weeks he might let it go, but he would keep a running tab, And I worked, so I paid my rent out of my work money from the time I was 15 on. But if I got behind for some reason, or something came up where I was saving my money, then, he'd be like, you're down 130 or whatever it was. I don't even know what it was. So my stepmother, it's the night before I'm leaving. I'm going to Kansas City. I'm going on a bus. I'm taking a bus to Kansas City, and the ticket was, I don't know, like maybe $100 or something. It was really, really cheap. That seems like a lot to me. But I do know that all I had to my name was $70. I had $70, and I had a bus ticket, and I had those suits to go in my suitcase, and I'd be ready for work, and I would make my money there, and I'm going to live with him in his house. He's got a house in Kansas City. He lives where all the sports stars live, in this development on the Kansas City side, not the Missouri side. And I go there, I actually didn't, like, somehow my stepmother started a fight with me when she found these suits. She found these suits and clothes underneath my bed in a garbage bag that I was going to move with, ready to pack, and she took them all. So I go to my room. I get there to get my stuff. I'm going to just pack my stuff up because I'm leaving, like, it's not the next day, but it's very close to that. I mean, it's very, very close to the time I'm supposed to take off, which I left the day after March 17th, like March 18th or something. I went to the Saturday parade in Buffalo, not the Sunday parade, and took off the next day. I wanted to see the parade and then get to Kansas City. So I get home, and I'm locked out of the house, and I'm knocking on the door, and she answers. My stepmother answers, and she's like, "What do you want?" I said, "I gotta come get my suits. I'm leaving. You know, I'm here to get the rest of my stuff and like pack up, kind of. You know, like I was really like literally just getting stuff to leave, and my room probably would have stayed the same, but it wasn't even a concern. I wasn't worried about packing up a room. I'm just worried about getting my clothes, these suits, and like my little, like my toothbrush. I know I needed my toothbrush, and I mean, I was low on money. I'm 18 years old, moved from New York to Kansas City on a bus to go live with my uncle. It was $70, which, what, you know, that wasn't even a lot for me then, even though that seems like nothing now. I think I was making, you know, that might have been like a week's pay at the pizza shop or something, you know, plus you made tips, but not much. So, get there, boom, 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 knock on the door. She got me locked out already. Like, my father never left the door unlocked. And some reason he wasn't there that day. So I gotta think that, like, this was planned out. But I don't remember the details for sure why he wasn't there. Because my father was always home, usually. You know, he ran out, but he'd be home in an hour. So she says, nah, you can't come in. And I say, listen, I'm starting to get choked up. Like, I didn't want to cry in front of her. And I'm like, no, I have to get my stuff. I'm leaving, Riessa. And she says, I go to open the door, and she reached out, and she slapped me across the face. I saw it coming, though. I said, don't hit me. Don't put your hands on me. Don't touch me again, because I'm going to hit you back this time, because she had hit me my whole life. And she didn't listen. So I ended up, like, it ended up that we got in a roll around, and my father never came home during that roll around. And at one point I had let her up inside, you know, like, listen, I just want to get my stuff, like, take your hands off me. She was ripping my hair out, you know, it was bad. She was like attacking me. So then I had to shove her back into the house. I didn't want to do this in front of the neighbors and the whole, like, street. And my sister was out on the porch somehow. I don't know how she got out there. Maybe she was calling for, like, help or something. I can't remember. And the BF at the time was waiting on me. And I let her up. And then I went to go upstairs to my bedroom. I had a bedroom upstairs, and she wouldn't, I let her up, and then she punched me again in the head. And I just, like, that was it. So I fend her off, and grabbed some stuff, but those suits weren't in the mix. That whole bag was gone. And I leave, tell my father later, like, when he gets home, he calls, he's like, I'm persona non grata at that point. I'm not going to live there anymore. I'm not, like, whatever happens, happens. I put my hands on his wife, blah, 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 blah. And I said at the time, you know, Dad, she put her hands on me first. And he just was like, you know, you weren't raised like that. You just weren't raised to be disrespectful, whatever. He wouldn't believe, like, he just couldn't believe, like, how it was with her, because she always did it when he was gone. So I'm leaving, but it looks kind of a little bit like I ran off and had committed some sort of a you know, bad thing, but the truth was she did that. She stole everything I had, and then I took her checkbook. So I took her checkbook, and I said, you're going to write me a check for what those were so I can buy in Kansas City, which I knew my uncle wasn't going to be thrilled with, to buy my clothes there, because he specifically wanted New York clothes. But there was nothing I could do. Oh, she wasn't going to do that either. She didn't do anything. My father's like, bring the checkbook back. And those suits were lifted. Those suits were shoplifted. And Not by me. I just said what I wanted, and you could get suits off the back of a truck at that time. Like, shoplifted off a truck. Had they got there yet? I don't think so. So, I mean, whatever. This friend had connects like that, but it still wasn't cheap and it wasn't free. And but my father knew that he knew this skimmy on it, and he wouldn't. He was just like, well, you know, easy gain, easy loss, sort of like that. And I was like, it was no easy gain because I did work for that. And she took them, okay? She took all those suits, and I go to Kansas City. And this is the funny part. That part of the story isn't even the story that I wanted to tell. Like, but I figured, I'll tell it. So, my father tells me I'm lucky that he wasn't there, that it would have gone different. And I tell him, like, listen, she's grown and I'm grown. She can't put her hands on me anymore. And, like, it'll always go that way if she hits me. I'm never going to be hit again by this woman. You know, you can't do that. You just can't. But anyway, he was, like, just kind of, you know, she looked pretty bad and I looked pretty good at the time for what happened, you know, because that's how it ended up. But it's not because, like, I was vicious with it. I fought for my life, is what I felt like. I was totally traumatized by what she had done to me my whole life. So I just hit it and forget it, basically, you know. Been a while since I've been thinking, like, she's got it coming. So, but I still feel bad because I know it's a sin. You know, I know I did wrong. Like, my father's so embarrassed and, like, whatever. So I get on that bus to go to Kansas, and it's a long ride, man. It was a long ride. We had to stop a lot of places. So I got this little hat box. It's literally, can you see my hands here? Okay, here's my bottom one here. So it's like a 2 foot, think of this as 2 feet high, a hat box, and they zip in the middle, and not the kind that goes like this, like one hat. This was a taller hat box. They were made out of, they were kind of like a carpet bagger, like carpeting, like, they look like an old, like, kind of a pillow, like, they were very old-fashioned, and it was about 2 feet tall, and I fit everything I had into that in a backpack. I always carried a backpack. I never carried a purse back then. I always carry a backpack, still to this day. So I got those 2 things on the bus, and I sit next to this cool girl. She's coming back from college. Well, first of all, it wasn't cool at first, though. I got on the bus in Buffalo, and it was just like you would think a bus station in 1991 in Buffalo, New York would be. It was rough. It was so rough. But I got on the bus fine because, you know, I was taken there and dropped off and made sure I got on. But then as you go, you got to get on different buses at different stops. And some of those stops are just like a gas station in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And I rode with a girl that was really cool. Her family had horses. They were Kentucky bluegrass horse people, and she was taking a bus because she wanted to live like the rest of us and didn't want to call for a ride. She was in trouble or something. Like, she'd gotten in trouble at school, and she was going back by bus because her family wouldn't, like, she was afraid her father was, like, she didn't know what was going to happen at all. She was in big trouble. And so she just talked to me about that, the whole ride to there. And it was 24 hours to get from New York to Kansas City. And she gets off in Kentucky, so it wasn't, you know, it's just that leg of it. And then from Kentucky on to Kansas, we made, like, it seemed like every single stop, and I just sat by myself alone on this bus, totally packed, just Jerry curl on the back of the seats, just greased in. The bathrooms didn't work. It was an old Greyhound. Like, they were in rough shape. I mean, it wasn't like, it seemed like they would be great, but, because it wasn't like a special deal or anything, but those buses were pretty rough back then. So I get off in St. Louis, and I look around, and, I mean, there's no white people. I'm, like, the only white person in the Kansas City bus station. And at these bus stations, too, I have men approaching me the whole way, to the point where, like, I just hung up. The bus driver would walk to the bathroom with me, and he would go to the bathroom and wait outside the bathroom. And this happened 3 times. The last 3 bus stops were, let's say when we went to Indianapolis, he went in and waited outside the bathroom for us. That's how he was. He'd say, you girls go in. This bus driver, like, babysitting us, he was so nice, because there was a few young girls on the bus by themselves. Not many, though. And then, okay, so so there's no white people. Nobody's mean at all. Everybody's, like, super nice. I'm not, like, scared about that, but there's definitely pimps skimming around and skibbity doo-bops. I'm just avoiding that, and when it's really dangerous, the bus driver comes with us, like, we're getting to where we're going, because he was we switched buses a couple times, but I mean, that guy was like on it. He was there, I feel like the whole ride there. But anyway, so St. Louis to Kansas City is not very far. So I get off in Kansas City. This is before cell phones. I have my stuff. I just feel filthy. It's just the dirtiest trip you could ever imagine. I mean, you're like, oh God, it was like nothing. I said, I'll never travel by bus again. I'll stay where I'm at. I'll always be somewhere where it's decent enough to stay where I'm at, that I don't have to escape by bus. But I mean, that's a lofty goal. You never know what could happen in your life. But that bus trip was real. That it was only by the grace of God that I was all right, with the angels that were around me the whole entire time, just taking care, you know. So when I get to Kansas City, there's a girl, a hot chick, like a hot blonde chick, like maybe she's a little girl, like under 5'6", and probably 5'2", like my mother's size, and long blonde hair, beautiful. She's standing in front of like a sports car, like I don't even know what, an Austin Healey or something, this red sports car, with a sign with my name on it, like this, like the limo driver and it says Damien on it. And I'm like, my uncle's supposed to be there to pick me up. My uncle's supposed to be there to pick me up. This guy's wild with it. He's so wild. Never said that a girl would be picking me up. So I'm like, hi. And she's like, oh, hi, I'm Chrissy. I'm like, I'm Damia. And she says, oh, I'm friends with your Uncle Tom. He sent me to get you. He got stuck at work and couldn't come to pick you up, but I'm here. Come on, let's put your stuff in the back, and I'm supposed to take you shopping. So we went to, because by then he knew. Like, I told him before I got there. I called him, you know, from elsewhere outside of my house, told him what happened, and he just said, just get on the bus. We'll take care of it here. So this girl was from Kansas, and she was a violinist. I think she was a cellist or a violinist, and she played for the Kansas City Philharmonic. And she also, to make ends meet, was a burlesque dancer, because I don't think she took it all off. She wore pasties. Kansas City at the time, you had to wear pasties, so maybe they called them burlesque or something, but it wasn't everything. And it was like a bottoms, like they had string bikinis on or whatever. So she takes me, and she's classy. She would never know that. I don't know that at all at this time. All I know is, like, so what are you doing? You know, she's driving a stick shift. Like, she's a cool girl. Like, everybody couldn't drive a stick shift. I could drive a stick shift. My father said that was very important. But once automatics came, a lot of people just learned an automatic and never did. Oh, look at that. You'll get bigger. Well, she's reached out. Can you see that, I wonder? Say hi, beautiful. She's a little stinky. So, I'm in Kansas. I get in the car with her. She says, okay, you know, so you're Tom's niece and everything. She's a real cool chick. Blue eyes, long, straight blonde hair, like total Kansas City. Like, a lot of girls look like that in Kansas City. A lot of good-looking blondes like that. Just farm girl, you know, like farm girls. Real little, super, like, so talented, and wanted to make that work full time for herself, but she was still in school. So she was, you know, a burlesque dancer at whatever time she was. I never saw her dance. I never went to the club that they worked or anything. I never saw. So I'm fast forwarding. So we go shopping, and and she takes me back to his place. It's a mansion. It's a mansion in where all the sports stars and stuff live. And she doesn't live there with him, but she kind of stays there. Like, she kind of stays there, but it's not, like, official. And this other girl, Dee, I'm going to stay in her bedroom. She's gone. She lives with him, too. And she is a traveling burlesque dancer. And she has one of these monkeys. The little monkey that, like, I went to Underground Atlanta when I was a kid. Little kid, like 4 or 5. I remember it, though. My husband actually worked in Underground Atlanta. Like, after that, much further, because I went when I was like 5 in the 70s. It then closed, and then it like came back, and he worked there when they were bringing Atlanta back in the heyday, you know, the late 80s of Atlanta. My husband lived there with his girlfriend and then his wife. They went to college down there. So, that's just a side story. It's not, it really does anything to this. But it's a cool place, and it's odd that we were both in that same place, and we're both from, like, the same little area and same place, exactly, as kids. Our families are Batavia and Leroy. So it's so wild that that's the case, you know. And we didn't know each other growing up, but he did, you know, he took care of me at Dunkin' Donuts when he worked there and stuff, but he didn't, you know, remember that because he did that for all the kids, because he's a nice guy, you know, and he didn't want to count the donut holes. But anyway, there weren't a lot of people like that. I mean, everybody wasn't giving you free stuff, and he was so sweet with it. So it made quite an impression on me. So I get there, and I get at this mansion, and there's all McMansions, and it's like a hilly little enclave with, like, baseball. I think it was mostly, like, baseball and basketball players, not, like, really football. I don't really remember any, like, famous football players or whatever. Now, this is my uncle that's, you know, he's in the business. He is running the car dealership. He's not the top boss there, but he is, like, I think he is the top boss there. He's running that dealership, yeah. Yeah, because he did that for a few years in the beginning. And he wants me to just discombobulate for a while. He's like, just chill, and then I'll go in and work at the dealership. So, and he gave me a car. He's like, here's a car you can drive. He would just bring me home cars. What do you want to drive to see? So I would get used to driving around there. And so let me get back to when I got there, but it's too loud up here. Come in the house. I'll just put it like this. Let me turn on this fan. This will take forever to load up, probably. I put one up and then I took it down the other day, but so I'm kicked out. I get there. She's got the sign for me. I'm pretty irritated with that because I'm like oh my God, just a sign for me. He's not really calm, but he was just so busy and stuff, you know, and I think it's a big deal, but my feelings were a little bit hurt, but she was pretty, and plus I just, like, I'm like 2 days off this whole fight with my stepmother, like 2-3 days off. I'm coming off it. So I really want to see him and talk to him because I need an adult, because I'm, like, thrown out. I mean, my father's like, there's no coming back from this. So, I think it was Deanna, she had that little monkey. Oh, that's why I was talking about that, because it was in underground Atlanta that I saw one. You know, they had these little monkeys, I don't know if you see them, and they had, like, a little accordion box, and they would, like, this little wheel, and it go ding, 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 and then it pops, like, kind of like a Jack in the Box or something. And he's got a little suit on and a long tail, and they would come up to you, and I put them, you'd give them money for a tip. And when I was little, my father would always tell the story that he gave me a quarter to give the little monkey, and he ran around the circle, and he came over to me, and I was scared. I wouldn't open up my hand. I wasn't being tight with it. My dad always said that, but I am Scottish, so I wouldn't. So he pinched my hand and made me open my hand, and he got the quarter. She had one of those in her stripper routine. She had a monkey that, like, went and got all her tips for him, put him in her jar when she danced. And he could do lots of things. You know, he could play that accordion thing. Accordion. It's like a turning box that makes music, like a music box. It's not, an accordion goes like, polka, or merengue or salsa, like 1, 2, 3, like waltzy. Yeah, so she had a monkey, but they weren't home. They were on tour. She was down in, like, New Orleans or something at the time on tour. And by the time I left, a few months later, she had come back. And I met her, and she was wild with it. I mean, her room was like, it was like a movie, like stripper showgirls. It was like that. She had all of her outfits specially made, beadeds. She had, like, native headdresses. She had tuxedos like Marlena Dietrich, like, that she stripped out of. She did burlesque, and she was fly. Like, this girl was so fly. And that little monkey, like, just would walk around on a leash with her if she had to go outside, and he drove around in her car with her and everything, wild with it. She had, like, a huge, you know, she was just loaded. And She lived with my Uncle Tom too. Wasn't his girlfriend, just like they all lived together. Yeah, so the job at the car dealership there didn't work out. I didn't like Kansas. I don't know. I just, like, that was going on. So it was like, my uncle was never around. He was working really hard out there. And plus, you know, he was mobbed up. So I don't know what he had going on otherwise like that. Like, the car dealership was enough of a job, but he had other things going on too. Funny story, he got arrested in Kansas. And in Kansas City, they put you in a paddy wagon, right? And they call it a paddy wagon still. And some people don't realize that that's a huge insult to Irish people, but no one gives a care about it because, you know, that's acceptable. But we don't say other things. So my uncle, he said he opened up the back of the paddy wagon, and all he could see were just eyeballs, no smiles, until the light, he shone the light, nobody's smiling, and it was all black guys, all black gangbangers in there. And Kansas City, and then at that time, they were filming the show Cops, was huge in Kansas City, and the Missouri side was like way worse for gang violence and stuff. The Kansas side's really pretty nice. Oh, it's not, I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. They have the most fountains in Kansas City, I think, than anywhere besides Versailles. So if that doesn't tell you now that we look back, I remember not believing that story. Like, they built it to look like Versailles. You know, I went on the downtown tour. We went to the museums. You know, my uncle took me to do every cultural thing there was to do around there. You know what we didn't do? We didn't go to a Native American museum. And, I mean, there has to be a big one, like, within a day drive. Like, I don't know offhand, but I know there would be, if not there, and we just didn't do that. But, you know, we went to that girl's Philharmonic show, the orchestra. Like, we went to a couple plays. We did a lot. He just had me do, like, so many fun, cool things always. He was such an interesting dude. He would take me to, when he lived in Rochester in the 90s, 80s, 90s, then he had to leave because of that mob war and the Brinks heist. That's how I started all this. I decided I'd tell about the Brinks heist that he was involved with in 1993. There was also one in 1991. I don't know that he had anything to do with that, but everybody has something to do with it, though, that's connected, you know, and he was connected. So I wouldn't say he was, you know, specifically in, you know, if he was, he was connected with the Gambinos, but, like, he could never be a made member because my uncle's Irish, Scottish, German, white, you know, paisan. So, even when he married an Italian lady, you know, he knew he would never be the same. So, he's in Kansas City, and he gets picked up. He says he just gets rounded up, like somebody kicks him out of a bar, and he's in a suit with a camel mohair coat, and he's, doesn't see anybody in there. First he thinks he's getting in alone, and then he sees everybody's eyes, like, turn to him. He could see everybody's eyes, and he said he was he was terrified. He was like, shit, they are throwing me in here. These guys are going to beat me to death. And then, my uncle said there was nothing to do. He didn't know what to do, so he had to think fast on his feet, and he was a fast thinker. This guy, he was so brilliant. He did so many cool things. Like, he was a marathon runner. He was a poet. He was, I mean, he could just tell you about anything with Irish history, Celtic history, anywhere. He knew he knew Brian Boru. He told me those stories. Oh my God, you know, and the heartbreak of it that he never knew he was Brian Boru's grandson down the line, because we never went our genealogy up. That costed a lot of money back then, and my grandpa was working on all that. You know, that's why there's a picture of me breaking into the Holland Land Office when I'm 10 years old. He made me look like I was getting in the window. That's my ID on Attica Survivor Stories, Attica Prison Survivor Stories on Instagram. That ID picture is me trying to get in the Holland Land Office, because my grandfather always knew that they were, you know, screwing us over on the land deal and stuff. But so they were just, like, such interesting people. My dad refinished President Millard Fillmore's table. He did museum work. He didn't just refinish furniture, but because furniture started getting so cheap and people had lost so much money in the 80s, he was just doing, like, repairs for random, like, you know, he would just call it garbage furniture, you know, because he's used to, like, the most beautiful furniture in the world. he's teaching me how to identify, different clawfoots on feet tubs. Louis the 16th versus Louis the whoever. Back at that time, I could do it, and he tested me out of books and stuff. Art history. Both my father and Tom were amazing at art history and taught me about the symbolism in art. I follow a channel that's really good on my on Instagram, that if you ever want to look at things, like to really see, look at a book, even if art's not your gig, look at a book about art and how artists use the art not only to like convey their feelings, but to convey things they can't say. And there's symbolism in those old paintings that's like they're telling you the whole story. The Da Vinci paintings are telling you a whole story about Christos is you, the man, you, it's in you. Christ's energy, it goes through you. You are of it when you look at what they're really saying. But that's the symbology, and there's lots of symbology. And in Irish, a lot of Irish art, that's why there's this, they would say there is a good written history for Ireland. There's a lot, but there was a lot that was burned. When they burned the monasteries, they burned all the books. That was why they did that. And a bard or a hedgerow teacher would be like what I'm doing right here with you, sitting in the garden, and the children would go meet the bard, the man. Usually it was a man that came to town. He went everywhere because he had to hide in Ireland because England had come and colonized it, plantation system everywhere, starving them out after starving them out. And they call them hedgerow teachers, and they come and they meet the children on the hedgerow, and then they teach them. And they're teaching them their real Celtic history, what really happened, because what they were learning in the stores, in the schools, was indoctrination. So you had these guys that would teach them on the sly about who they were, because who they were was being erased. And, the Catholic Church did a lot with that, because they were, it was their schools, and, like, those are the people that are in charge. And Protestants, they both were in charge, and nobody really wanted your history. Nobody was looking for that. They were trying to erase the Irish, though maybe, that piece of them to go under a colonized mindset and and that's just another take back, That's the short season, I think. So they were like that. They were like hedgerow teachers. My father, all the kids stopped at my dad's house. Like, everybody loved him. Everybody loved Tom everywhere they went. These terrible deaths, you'd say, oh my God, wow, they lived such hard lives to die that young. And they did, you know what I mean? They both drank heavy. They were both, massive alcoholics. There's nothing I can say that they didn't die like that didn't really happen. But, and I have to accept it, because I made the last call I could. But they wouldn't have if the world wasn't how it was, and all these lies and stuff that they dealt with as well. But okay, so my Uncle Tom is in Kansas City. He's arrested for probably a disorderly, maybe. I think it was like something like that, And the paddy wagon is going around the city, and the paddy wagon in Kansas City just goes, picks up people. And please watch Cops, circa 1990s. Kansas City, and that's how it was. That everybody's in like everybody's wearing their like Michael Jordans, like your long basketball shorts. My Tom wasn't even sure. He's like, there's no way there's not a gun in the truck with me in the paddy wagon. There's going to be a gun. One of these guys got a gun for sure. So he just immediately looked at the cop, and he's like, he swore at him and said, like, how you're going to he goes, get in the pad. The guy actually said it. He goes, it was like the best ever, like a movie. He goes, the guy goes, get up in the paddy wagon, get in the paddy wagon. Like, said it to him, like he really meant it, and he knew it. But he just snapped and just called him a racist and every other name in the book, and like, a paddy wagon. You want to talk about my people? You're going to call me a paddy? We built this country. Like, you have no idea who you're talking about. Do you know who Michael Collins is? Do you know who, the cop is like, oh my God, with it. And all the black guys were just like, holy shit, this guy's off the chain. Like, he said nobody gave him any trouble at all. They were all friends. As soon as he walked in, they're high-fiving him like, yeah, screw this guy and everything. And he didn't have any trouble the whole way they went to jail. Yeah, he went to jail and everything and was arrested and stuff like that. But, yeah, so it was just like to think of that, you know, but it was true. That was the thing. Like, so many funny things happen. And you know what's funny? The truth. The truth is funny. Like, I'm never upset. Like, my husband's like, you woke up with a dream about the mafia. Because I had said, when I woke up and I thought about I was dreaming about the mafia, and I can't, it was like about this Trafficano that had, this Trafficano that lived in Tampa, Florida. And like, it was a lot of T's, and I was thinking of that. And like how you don't know things. Like, I hope I never made it worse for my father. I know I made my father's life worse working there. I know I did. Like, but he